Hello, everyone, and welcome to Session 2 of Fall of Magic by Ross Cowman, published by Heart of the Deernicorn. We're playing this game through the Open Hearth Gaming Community, which is it's an online gaming community. We run about 100 games a month. It's free and open for anyone to join. If you're interested in learning more about Open Hearth Gaming, check us out at openhearthgaming.com. A little bit about myself. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him, and I will be your facilitator this evening because Fall of Magic is a GM-less game. And I will be playing Moon, Apprentice of Ravenhall. Let's just go around and introduce our other players. Let's go clockwise as I see you on my screen here. So Casey, would you please go next?
Absolutely. My name's Casey, he, him for me, and I'm playing Piccolo, the Swineherd of Barley Town, also he, him.
Cool, thanks. And Chaotic, would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Chaotic. I use he, they pronouns, and I'll be playing Azure, Fox of Mistwood.
Awesome. So I'm going to just go ahead and put my character name in my screen titles here. Oh, and my character uses she, her. My character uses she, her pronouns. And it's okay with you, Casey. I know you're having some trouble with it last time. I can change that for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I was going to ask. Yep, sweet. And thank you.
Alrighty. So, I'm going to talk very, very briefly about safety. We had a more in-depth for our first session, and this is just session 2, so I'm just going to touch on it really, really briefly. So emotional safety at the role-playing gaming table is very important. We're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together to play a game online, and the purpose of this game is to have fun. Safety tools allow us to put some bounds around things that we may not be comfortable playing with, to focus to take the attention away from that and focus on the fun. We've also got some other tools in play that'll help us with our personal comfort and also what to do if we do go to places where we either shouldn't have or didn't really know we should have gone. So really, really briefly, we're taking a layered approach. We're playing with 3 safety tools. We're playing with the open door policy. That just means we can all come and go as we please. And we are all empowered to decide that this game isn't for us and we can resign with no harm, no foul, because not every game is for everyone. I only ask if you need to step away for any reason, please do so. I only ask that if you do need to step away and you're not planning to come back, please let us know so we don't wait for you. We're also playing with a tool called Lines and Veils. That is a proactive tool that allows us to set a number of subject matters that we either don't want to deal with at all or only want to deal with under very limited or limited circumstances in some respect. We've got a list of those. I've copied that into a little stick note that's floating on top of all of my other screens, so I will hopefully not get a chance to. Hopefully I won't take my eye off that ball since it's floating on top of everything. If anyone wants to take a look at the Lines and Veils sheet again, it is linked from the journal on our Roll20 page. If anyone had any changes, let me know and I'll pause it so we can have a talk. We can talk about that off camera. But is everyone cool with the ones we established last week? Okay, awesome. And finally, we're also playing with the X card. That is a reactive safety tool that allows us to anytime anything happens in the game that you are not comfortable with, whether that's within the game or whether that's within the game itself or something that's happened between in player dynamics between the players outside of the game. You can say the phrase X card. We're all on camera, so you can make an X figure with your hands, or even just say, "Hey, whoa, 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 we need to talk." If you invoke the X card, that just means we're going to pause the game. We're going to have a little chat to figure out what we need to change. We will not ask why. We just need to know what, and then we will adjust the game accordingly. Whether that's rewind, replay the scene, end the scene there, just jump to the next one, or whatever we decide is the best thing to do in the circumstances. I will ask regarding the X card and lines and veils every once in a while in our enthusiasm to play the game. We may take our eye off of the lines and veils list. If anyone notices that one of us is taking play and is approaching a line or a veil, please immediately X card and we'll adjust before we go into problematic territory. I wish I could say I've never done. I wish I could say that I've never done that, but I have. It happens. We're all human. Any questions about safety tools before we head on? Fantastic. So we did have a fourth player that can't join us tonight. They're hopefully going to be able to join us next week. So that character was that character was Caspian, the Crab Singer of Istallia. So we'll figure out what to do with Caspian. Whether like Caspian will like follow along with us as a basically a non-player character, or if I'll contrive some way to we'll contrive some way that Caspian goes off and catches up with us later. One thing that we could conceivably do is looking ahead on the map. There's a fork in the road. We could conceivably say that Caspian decides to take the other fork, but we'll figure that out. So the story thus far. So our 4 characters are joining the Magus to take a basically Fall of Magic is basically I skipped over the brief description of what Fall of Magic is. If any viewers are just joining us now, I strongly advise you to go back and watch episode 1. This game will make a whole lot more sense if you do that first. So the story thus far, so our 4 characters are accompanying the Magus on a trip from Ravenhall all the way across this magical fantasy realm to the land of Umbra, where magic was born. Because, and I forgot to start with the I forgot to start with the opening ritual of this game, and that is to state the premise of the game. Fall of Magic. Magic is dying, and the Magus is dying along with it. We travel together to the realm of Umbra, where magic was born. That, in 2 sentences, is the entire premise of this game. So we have done some establishment of our characters. We've had some inter-character interactions already. We've learned a little bit about the Magus. We've learned a little bit about our characters. And so this session opens in Barley Town. So I'm going to say we've probably spent some time in Barley Town. We've replenished our supplies. We've done some interaction with the denizens of the town. People have, gone off and done some of their own things. And I think we came pretty close to everyone having a go. So I guess we'll just kind of start again. So we are still in the Barley Town location. So if anyone would like to volunteer to start, you can either move your character token to another location and play out a scene in Barley Town. Or if you think we're done with Barley Town, you can pick up the Magus token and move it to the next location. I will also mention. Hold on. Let me do a screen share here so our viewers at home can see what we're all seeing. Where's my share button? Okay, I know there's a share screen somewhere. Here it is. right there in front. Okay, so we are here in the we are here in Barley Town, and we've all had at least one scene in Barley Town. As we can see, this path from Barley Town to the next location splits. So we're going to so whoever moves the Magus needs to make a choice as to which is the next location they want to go to. Do they want to go to the Stormguard Mountains, where the story prompt is the coming storm, or would you like to go to Mistwood, and the prompt is how the road changes? I will mention that one of our characters is from Mistwood, so that might influence our choices. That's enough. I will stop the share. I'm happy to make a decision for my character, but do either Chaotic or Casey, would either of you like to start us off? If the answer is no, go on. I was going to say if the answer is no, I'm happy to take it, but I want to give both of you the opportunity.
It would depend on whether or not Casey wants Piccolo to explore Barley Town a little bit longer. Maybe pick up a trait or so, because we haven't really seen Barley Manor. But I'm fine with moving on.
Yeah, I would have said, I didn't even think about that. That's funny. I would have said move on, but and like, yeah, I would kind of like to see the places that our characters are from. But if you want to avoid where you're from, that's also very cool. But
let me take a quick look at my character, actually. Yeah, I think I got a tag from someone assigned me a tag from the last time we went to someone went to a location that had a growth opportunity. So I already do have a tag. If any, so I am I'm happy to take the initiative here. Okay. And my token is the Raven. Now, I think I'm going to stay in Barley Town for just a while longer, and I'm going to move to I'm going to go to Barley Manor. It's been a few days. We've been in Barley Town. Our little party has been, talking with the locals. We've bought supplies for our long and arduous journey ahead, because we know that this is probably the last major settlement between here and Istallia, which is a major city. So we needed to get supplies for the road. Mostly absent from our comings and goings has been the Magus, who has mostly been staying in Barley Manor, accepting the hospitality of the Barley Lord. And so Moon heads up to Barley Manor to check in with the Magus to see how they're doing. And I think we see so I think we see there's I think we see the scene is there's kind of like so I see Barley Manor as like a big manor house. I'm taking a cue from the map here. It's a big manor house. It's not quite a keep, but it's at the summit of a hill that's in the center of town, and the rest of the town kind of sprawls out around it on the downslopes of the hill and the fields around it. And the large doors to the main to like the great hall of Barley Manor are closed, and Moon hears the voice of the Magus talking in the great hall, and walks up and just opens the door. And there at the far end of the great hall, the Magus and the Barley Lord and a couple of other, kind of important looking people are sitting around I'm imagining like one of those like long, great dining tables. Because this is, the great hall of the manor. So it's like one of these long one of those really long, like medievalish dining tables that could, maybe seat 20 or 30 people. There's like a cluster of like 4 or 5 people at one end, the end of the hall that's near the dais with the it's not quite a throne, but there's a dais with a couple of chairs up there that presumably that's where the Barley Lord holds court. And when when Moon opens the door, the conversation just suddenly stops, and like 5 pairs of eyes like look up at the Apprentice of Ravenhall, and she was not expecting this reaction, and says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry if I'm interrupting. I wanted to let the Magus know that our bags are ready, and we're ready to continue our journey." And at that, the 5 important people, including the Barley Lord and the Magus, like exchange glances at each other, and then look to Moon, and they all start laughing. It says, Come, please join us." um, and so Moon enters the hallway, and one of the other people like gestures to a chair, and she sits down, and a servant like pours her a glass of wine, and they I'm not going to play out I'm not going to play out a conversation, but they ask her for a more detailed update as to what she's planning, what they're looking forward to, and she tells them. And through this, the Magus herself doesn't really say anything, but she's just kind of nodding along. And I think that's the scene. And I think I might take for myself the label bold. So let me pull up my character. And I apologize for not pulling another character into that scene, but I just the one I had in my head was kind of like,
yeah,
didn't seem super appropriate to like be pulling the other members of the party in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would anyone like to go next? Whether that's to continue to explore Barley Town or to move the Magus to our next location.
I have a pretty good idea of like moving into Mistwood, if that's all right.
Good by me.
Mistwood. How the road changes. I think as we're traveling all together, most of us are on horses or some sort of other 4-legged creatures, some of fantastical proportions, others more mundane. I think the road changes as we reach sort of the crest over a hill, and looking down into the valley of Mistwood, we see what looks at first to be unseasonal snow, but it's not snow. It's closer to ash, but I wouldn't even say it's that, but rather like all the natural life, at least on the outer shell of it, is stone, like flint. Because Mistwood is renowned for its magic, and magic is dying. And so the woods themselves are dying along with it. But if you break off like a tree branch or a little bit of plant, the core is still alive, barely holding on. But it's quiet here, for better or worse.
Is it a long journey from Barley Town to Mistwood?
Uh, I would say so. I would say it was like it's been at least a week, perhaps even longer.
Cool.
That's why
Fair.
that's probably why no news of this has like come out quite yet.
Cool. That's the scene?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Casey, I think it is your turn.
Yeah. I think yeah, I'm gonna move to the Rangers Road in the mist. And I don't think it's mist. I think it's like stone powder or ash, right? Um, like once we've noticed that and we're like, yeah, following down into the valley, I think it starts to fall and it's like a chalky um precipitation. Um, and I don't know what to make of that. So I would probably ask Moon or the Magus, I guess, but Moon's kind of the stand-in, right? Because you're the character. Uh, but what do you know of this ash rain?
Well, says Moon, and I'm seeing is this. I'm imagining that at this point we're like walking through this. We're kind of like on foot, kind of leading our horses,
Okay.
because like this is kind of maybe freaking our horses out a little. If that's okay to add to the scene.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah.
so I think at that question, I think Moon gets down on one knee and like touches the ash and like scoops up some and like pours it out of her hand and like feels it and smells it and perhaps even tastes it. And she says, "This is I've I've never heard of this. I never thought I'd see this. I've read about it, and this is this is like the residue of what happens when things that had been infused with magic, and that were held together and woven together by magic. When the magic leaves, this is the non-magical part of what it wove that just kind of disintegrates, kind of like when almost as if when you take a piece of cloth, take a piece of woven cloth and you pull out, and you pull the warp, the weft comes, the weft like falls apart into strings. This, and she holds up more and like pours it through her hands again. This is the strings. This is not a good sign. This is not a good sign at all. And this was Mistwood's always been a sacred place. Wonder if there would be a way to, well, almost, since magic is dying, I wonder if there'd be a way to, I don't know, siphon magic out of some places where it's not quite as important and bring it here for now to kind of shore things up. The that's certainly beyond my power, but um, and she looks off in the distance to see the Magus on her unicorn, who also has a concerned, like who's a ways ahead, who also has a concerned look on her face. I wonder if this is something that Magus could assist with. What do you think? What do you think, Piccolo and Fox? You're from here. What do you think?
I think like Fox has been like staying a little ways away, like still eavesdropping because like this concerns the Mistwood. But like this stone mist is like just sticking to like their clothes, sort of like, and they just look miserable. Just this was not like this when I left here. I don't. How could things change so quickly? It's the Oak Hills were fine. Ravenhall was fine. Barley Town was fine, but not here. Or here. Are other places worse than this?
Maybe the places with the most magic are the most vulnerable.
Mm.
That is what I was fearing as well.
I like that for the scene, if that's my call, but
Absolutely. It is your scene and it is your call.
cool. That yeah, I really like the way that went. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I know I talked a lot in that scene, but I think it's technically my turn now. Let me look at. Let me share the screen so our viewers at home can see what we're seeing. Okay, so we're here in Mistwood. Choices are crossing holds back by moonlight, a memory of home, and foraging, the lesson you teach.
Just as a general point of order, Mike, if you don't mind,
Yep.
some like game talk. I'm just wondering
Yep.
what happens with like in the foraging section. What happens? It's got the numbers. Do you roll a d6? What
Yep.
happens there? I was just curious.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. Actually, let me just pull up the the PDF of the rules of the game. So the numbered story prompts indicate a peril. So you describe, so as it says here, so we set the scene with the basic story prompt as we do for a normal scene. But once you've set the scene, you then roll a d6, and you continue your narration, but you have to include one of the you have to include the element that you rolled.
Cool. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I just wanted to double check her. Awesome.
I think I am going. I think I am going to go to By Moonlight. Do I? No, I think I am going to go to foraging. No, I'm going to go with my first. I'm going to go with my first. So we're going to go By Moonlight, a memory of home. Sorry, I'm still thinking.
Yeah, all these prompts are very good.
They're all so good. You know, I now have an idea for a crossing. I'm going to take a crossing. So as we continue to go through Mistwood, and the deeper we get into Mistwood to cross through it, the less, we're seeing less and less of this ash, because it seems like for whatever reason the magic is fading from the fringes and is moving its way inward, and we come to there's a we come to a river that goes through the Mistwood Valley. And there are tall trees around us, And the trees here, as we stated earlier, this is summer turning to autumn. It's getting closer to autumn now. In fact, it may be very close to autumn, but looking at the trees, you would think that it was well past autumn. The trees here are like orange, and the leaves on the trees are orange and yellow and brown, but there's not a lot of reds, and even the colors seem muted. Which again, it's like at least a month sooner than it should be, and Azure certainly knows this. So we get to this. So we get to a bridge. There's a stone bridge that goes over this river, and as we're riding through, Moon rides up to the Magus and asks, what's actually happening here? And with you and all your power, is there anything you can do to help protect this place, at least for now, and at least until our quest is over, and hopefully able to fix whatever's happening? And the Magus sighs. And she turns and puts her hand on Moon's shoulder and says, well, the answer is yes. I can shore this place up, perhaps even undo some of the damage. But I'm going to have to pour a lot of what remains of me, and I'll need your help. I'll have to pour a lot of my power into this place to shore it up. And we might need that power later. And Moon looks around and sees the normally, like, I'm imagining this like, so chaotic. Your character is from Mistwood. Did you imagine this is kind of a place of? I know this is a place that was infused with magic. Under normal circumstances, what would this place, what would normally tell? Under normal circumstances, before magic started dying, what would tell you that Mistwood is a magical place?
Out of all the areas in the land, it's one of the places that is last affected by fall, but the first to be affected by spring. This is an area of almost to the religious, an area of rebirth. To the people that live here, this is a land where you aren't burdened by the troubles of the outside world. There's not much in terms of permanent locations like buildings or anything of that nature. So this bridge in particular, I imagine it was built as a promise to unite Mistwood with the rest of the lands, to never truly be isolated. And I think like this is sort of like the epicenter of the valley, which is why it's been the least affected by this stone thing.
And I think the Magus looks to Azure, and the Magus looks to Caspian, and the Magus looks to Piccolo, and says, and she nods her head, and she says, very well then. And she gets off of she dismounts from her unicorn and strides to the center of the bridge. And she starts an incantation. And I'm going to, like, the viewers at home would be seeing, like, and she starts speaking, and it's almost like that echo box effect. We can tell there's magic being worked here. I think the camera pans back, and we're seeing her back as she stands on this bridge, and she's, and she does these she says these incantations and makes these somewhat dramatic gestures, and like rays of like she starts to, she doesn't glow herself, but from her hands as she's gesturing, like rays of the spring sunshine radiate out from her. And she gestures all around her, and as these rays of sunlight hit the trees, the leaves you know the leaves revert. They turn, the orange, the yellows turn to yellow green, and then turn to the deep green of summer, as if she's like reversing the amount of she's like reversing as far ahead as the season are, like turning back time, turning back the seasons. And in the distance, where you could see in the distance, like where some of that ash had fallen, or maybe even was still falling, we're seeing the ash like kind of stop falling and disappear, and the color starts to reinfuse the forest. And when she's done, and when she finally works this magic, and she says the final words, and she stands she stands still with her hands up for a moment, and then she staggers forward and falls down to one knee and catches herself. She doesn't fall all the way down, but she like falls to her knees and like catches herself with her hands on the ground. Moon rushes over and helps her up, and we notice that several of those, and now that we see her, several of those like mystical tattoos that were on her face are gone. And I think that's the scene.
Mhm.
I think what was holding us back was the Magus's hesitation to pour some of her own power into this place to try to restore it.
I think I am going to go foraging. And I think to sort of set the scene, I would like to drag Moon along because, well, your Magus, or Magus, has sacrificed a great deal, and the denizens of Mistwood would repay you. The land would repay you. However, it seems as though you yourself kind of forced their hand to make action. So it's a little bit improper in terms of the order of the thing, the teacher becoming the student and the student becoming the teacher. But to make things right, I think Azure and their magnitude of good life lessons is going to try to teach you more about Mistwood in particular, about the nature, about the plants that grow here, about the people that live here, and the other sorts of creatures.
Moon is legitimately very interested in learning this because she has never been here before and has only known of Mistwood from reading about it in books, and is fascinated to be here, and is also fascinated to see what the place has become. And to see what the land is really like, especially now that the Magus has sort of like reversed some of whatever was causing the magic to fade here.
Yes, yes. There is several things about this valley that you cannot bring out to the outside world because, well, the people like it here because it's peaceful. But as you probably have noticed, we have encountered no people, at least people that you would recognize as people.
How do you mean by that? People that we would recognize as people?
Yes, we've
Are
met.
they Are they hiding?
No, I would say that I'm more hidden from you than they are hidden from you.
I was going to say, or are they right here in a different form?
Different forms. And I think I just give out like several whistles. You could probably recognize it as sort of different bird calls. And like several like I think smaller like sparrows, but they're of odd colors, like bright neons, and it's just very, very strange. And they sort of lead us down like this sort of trail that's like has no footprints in it. Like it's pretty hard for you, Moon, to walk along, but Azure walks with pretty strong confidence, and this it seems to be leading to a clearing which has an almost, you could call it a structure, the first you've seen. It's more of a stone slab on the ground rather than a building, but like on it is various like fruits and plants and all sorts of things, like sort of a bountiful harvest. And I don't allow you to take from it. And it takes about like a good 10 minutes before I take something from it. And I take this very unique looking flower. Casey, could you describe what it looks like?
Man, maybe because it's all over here. That do you know what spotted knapweed is? That springs to mind. It's like an invasive species. It's like a purpley flower that sort of has like a lot of like individual strands, kind of.
Oh yeah.
Um, Something like that. But maybe with like a more typical like ring of flower petals around the outside, and the inside looks like that burst of purple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, this should do well. And I present the flower to you. This helps with uh, versions of the heart, stressful situations.
Thank you. She takes the flower.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she smells the flower, nods, and I think she puts it in her hair.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. Let's return back to the group.
She nods and follows.
Mm-hmm.
Take that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. Okay. I think it is Casey's turn.
Yeah, I think
And
I'm
if you,
gonna.
if you want to move, if you want to move the Magus, or if you want to continue picking prompts, and you can go back and you can go to a prompt that if you would like to, you can go to a prompt that someone else has already chosen. You just can't go
Sure.
back to the one that you can't go back to one that you have chosen.
Right, right. Cool. Well, I was gonna move on to Moonlight, A Memory of Home. And since we just left Barley Town, or that was the last place we were, I think as we camp after all of this has happened, I think Piccolo thinks of Barley Town, and thinks of like the night we left, he could have gone down to the axe and the fiddle and sang songs with his friends and you know, kind of had a send off, you know, but he chose not to. And I think he's contemplating that memory that could be, because the farther he gets from home, I think the more serious things are becoming to him, especially coming here and seeing so much of magic dying. It might be like sinking in that this might not, like, yeah, maybe he's not coming back. Maybe he should have spent some more time with the people he cared about at home, instead of being so occupied with, you know, the weight of the enormity that's sort of been asked of all of us at this point, with you know, with only minimal information, I suppose, or like discovered information so far. And I'm happy for that to scene. I'm also happy to drag Azure into it as well.
It's your scene. Do you want to keep going?
I don't know. How do you feel, Chaotic?
I'm good of like coming in, like, because I think Azure has been a little bit restless as of late.
Okay, I think yeah, again, I think Piccolo is kind of disturbed by all of this, and to stay on the prompt, actually, I think he would ask of Azure what this place was like before they left, before magic started to die here. Is it as we see now, or was it even more splendid?
It was more splendid. It was more regular folk used to travel through Mistwood all the time. But the paths of late, they have not seen footfall in many weeks. And the sounds of the forest are quiet. The foxes, they no longer prowl where they once were. The deer rarely come out to graze. Only birds really remain, but even their voices fall silent unless you call upon them. And a lot is being kept close to the chest. Not a lot is being willingly shared here. I would be careful about upsetting anything living here. Everything's very, very tense. I think as like Zur just picks up as though he's trying to listen for something, but that thing never comes.
I like that. I like that vision of the two of us just standing there in the silence in the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's good for me, scene.
Okay.
Awesome. So I think it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think I am going to move the Magus to the next location. I'm also looking at the time. We are approaching the hour. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and come back right on the hour?
Okay.
Okay, and we're back. So I believe it is my turn. I think I'm going to move on to the next location. Let me do another screen share here. So I am going to Vegas to Hall of the Woods. Find the hospitality of the Grey Rangers. So the next day, we see. So the next day, as we like break camp in Mistwood, we're still near the bridge, although we're on the other side. We made a camp almost immediately after the Magus worked her magic, and she was clearly drained, and went to sleep very. Once we made camp, Moon helped her bed down, and she went to sleep almost immediately. The next morning, we woke up and everyone seemed in more or less good spirits, including the Magus herself. But as we said, like several of the sigils that had been tattooed on her face aren't there anymore. But we saddle up, and the five of us continue our journey. We continue traveling through. We continually travel through the through the other side of Mistwood, through the valley, and then up into the hills on the other side, continuing to follow the trail. And at some point, at some point, we do see some signs of a little more of actual, like, I hesitate to say civilization, but we are starting to see some structures that have been built. Like maybe off in the distance we see like the telltale smoke of a fire from a hunting cabin. Or and again, the road we're following definitely has tracks. It's not a well traveled road, but it is a road nevertheless. And at some point in the distance, we hear the sound of a hunting. And at that, the Magus raises her hand to signal us to stop. And she produces like pulls from her cloak. She produces a basically it looks like a tin whistle, and she plays a very quick tune on the tin whistle that seems to carry much farther. Sound seems to carry much farther than you would expect a simple tin whistle to carry. There's a second sound of a clarion in the distance, and she says, "Wait, and she turns to the rest of us and says, "Wait, the rangers will be here soon, and we should announce our presence. Traveling through their territory could be dangerous if they thought we had ill intent."
Yes.
I was going to ask, Azure, what do you know of the Grey Rangers?
The Grey Rangers are forbidden from entering the Mistwood proper. It's technically speaking, Mistwood is kind of split into two pieces because of the bridge. And the Rangers are allowed some leniency on their side of the bridge, but they aren't allowed to cross over it, at least not without announcing themselves and being watched very carefully. And I assume that because I'm from Mistwood proper, I'm going to be watched very carefully, and I'm not pleased that we have to announce ourselves, and I'd rather not be dealing with this, but we have to because they may try to do stuff if we don't do it. So it's just like, Azur's not happy about it, but it is what it is. He's just making faces in the background, just like oh, the whistle calls, the hunting horns, and just like possibly the sounds of like the Rangers probably approaching us.
Yeah, there's definitely the sound. You definitely hear the sound of people approaching, And if it's okay with you, Casey, I'd ask you to describe what how our party is intercepted with, or how the Gray Rangers like come to us, and what do they look like? And are they on foot? Are they riding animals? And if so, what are they riding?
Feels like they're riding horses. Um, it's yeah, let's say it's like a returning hunt party. So they come on us from behind, like going towards the Hall of the Woods. And I think they are called the Gray Rangers because they wear gray. No, but like these really awesome cloaks, right? But the gray matches the like decaying, dead, dying magic threads that were on the road yesterday. Um, and yeah, I mean,
Okay, so it's a party.
if
Oh, sorry. So just
no,
to
no, no,
clarify, it's a so it's a part. So it seems like it's a hunting party of like what, maybe like half a dozen.
yeah, maybe 6, 8, yeah.
Cool. Well, they this party of rangers approach, and and the Magus calls out, hail to the Gray Rangers. We wish to pass through your part of the woods on our continued journey. And one of them, the leader, let me roll a die real quick. Why? Because why not? I'm just wanting to get a little idea as to like, this person is. So okay. So it is so the leader of the Gray Rangers is another woman. Looks like she might even be kind of hard to tell how old the Magus is. She's got that look that she could be anywhere from, like 45 to like 400. No one's really sure how old the Magus is. And yeah, it's a woman approaches. She's got dark hair streaked with gray, and she rides up and says, "Well, we haven't seen you in quite some time. What brings you to, she raises her arm. What brings you to our stead?" And the Magus says, "Well, as I said, we are traveling through. We are looking to go to Istallia, and well, this is the fastest route." To which the leader of the Grey Rangers nods and says, "Well, night will be falling soon, and you will not want to be out here by yourselves at night in this part of the woods. It is dangerous. So please come with us. Come with us to the Hall of the Woods." And so this party of rangers basically surrounds the five of us and escorts us up this road. We'll probably ride for another like maybe hour, um, and we come to a large wooden structure. It's got a thatched roof. There's some smoke coming out of the chimney. I'm imagining almost like it's got almost like the Viking decorative woodwork, with maybe some animal, some like highly stylized animal motifs. I'm imagining it's like a Viking hall is sort of what it looks like. Um, and they show us where to tie up our horses, and there's at least another dozen people that are here, and some people come out to tend our horses, and they bring us into the hall, and it's a much more rustic looking hall than than the Hall of the Barley Lord. Let's see. I'm gonna ask Chaotic. There's some tapestries that are hanging from the walls. What are they of, and what about them is just vaguely disturbing?
It shows like sort of scenes of hunting various animals, and to the average eye, it just seems like that on the surface, just animals. However, it's disturbing to Azure in particular because the animal being prominently hunted in these scenes are foxes.
And Casey, I will ask you if you would describe what what are like how is like what is the reaction of the rangers that were in the hall when these 5 strangers are escorted in, and what if anything do they do /serve to us?
I think there's like, let's see. So a bunch of strangers come crashing in with, well, along with the hunting party. So I think it's, an intrusion and like the looks of, well, like walking into a Western bar, right? Like everyone turns and looks at you. A little bit like that, right? But then with the attitude of the folks that we're with, it sort of warms. I think some of the Rangers remain leery. Times are like that. But I think they warm, and we have a big dinner. I think they probably cook the deer that they had hunted and were bringing back, so it's a plentiful meal. And I think all goes well with that. We feel welcome to the extent of breaking bread with the Rangers, at the very least.
Nice.
And for whatever reason, I see like rose mauling, like patterns maybe on the walls.
Nice. So I think the Rangers see us too. I'm guessing they have got like simple but not, simple but fairly comfortable accommodations for travelers. So they show us to some rooms, and I think that's the scene. I'm not sure turn order who would be next. So, who would like to pick a prompt?
I can, if you're thinking, if you want some more time, Chaotic.
Yeah, I'm thinking because these prompts are very interesting about the way they could be handled.
Yeah, I was going to say these
Right.
prompts are a little darker than many.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to be mindful of lines and veils. Yeah. Could we pause the recording to like have a little bit of a ask first?
Absolutely. Okay, the question about our lines and veils has been settled, so let's continue. Casey, did you say you have an idea and would like to go?
Kind of, yeah. I was just volunteering more to give Chaotic some space, maybe. But I mean, because I could always just kind of jump right into it and like start talking. But but if you have an idea for a scene you want to call, that's totally cool too. Again,
Yeah, it seems that you have a very strong idea, and I have like a more of an amorphous idea that hasn't quite been established, because like as much as the Grey Wardens have welcomed us, it still feels Azure feels still like kind of standoffish towards like this situation.
We're all being so accommodating. Casey, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. Like I say, man, I'm from the Midwest, the upper Midwest, especially. Now, so I'm gonna go to the hall and why we must stay. And I don't know if it's like a spoken thing, or if it's the general vibe, or even if it's maybe some of the tapestries that were depicting hunts or whatever. Maybe there's some iconography there that was at first hidden and now noticeable, or maybe they change. But the idea I have is that things have gone so poorly now in this section of the woods that the rangers won't even go out at night. There's something that lurks in the darkness that scares even them, and so why we must stay particularly in the hall is it's the safest place. And that was the only idea I had.
I will mind if I probe a little bit on that?
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
What did the Rangers do to convey that and to convey that to us?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I suppose when they show us to our rooms, it probably gets brought up. When 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 the moon rises beyond no, not beyond, when the moon rises above the trees, it is not safe to be outside. We would recommend you stay within the hall uh, until the sun rises. Nothing to be immediately concerned about. We do have our patrols, but things have changed in the woods since last you were here. Maybe they're directing the Magus particularly. Magic, maybe it's magic, right? Maybe magic may be dying in some places, but it's just as strong as ever here, albeit different.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe there's some kind of like really dangerous beast that haunts the woods that had been confined through some kind of magical defensive barrier, and the defensive barrier and the magic is fading on the barrier. So this creature, this monster that hunts the night, is on the loose again.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Definitely. That's good for me.
Yeah. I think sort of building off of that, I think even though Azure is not meant to be in these part of the woods, he still knows both sides of the river very well. So I think he knows where the magical barrier was once was that kept this beast. I think like Azure would take like Moon and Piccolo along with and just leave the Magus at the Hall of the Woods just to placate the Grey Rangers, because well, rather not have them following along with us to this place. It's not something that they should meddle with. Could break it further, and I'd rather not like have it accidentally activate again and then we get trapped here. And then until maybe the end of the world. Let's not think about that. Let's just focus on one problem at a time and see what has happened at this wild altar. And I think we head off into the woods, and there is like just this thick bramble of like blackberry bushes of just trying to like crawl on through. Like we're by like the time we get through like all this bunch, we're like coated in dirt and fruit juice, and it's just a mess, like with like thorns sticking into like some wool parts of our clothing and whatnot. Even Azure is a little bit messed up, more than usual, even though he's very good at traveling in the woods. This is still a struggle. But I think this is stone structure that has magic runes over, like, imagine like Stonehenge, but with like words like at the top. Oh, well, here we are. This is where the beast of the woods used to be. Isn't here any longer, but maybe can figure out if it's going to cause problems in the future. It's still tied to this place.
Mind if I jump in?
Mhm.
We're both here.
Yeah.
So Moon, like scrapes some of the dirt and the and the vines that have grown up over this ancient altar. And like she runs her fingers across the lines of runes that are etched into this ancient stone. They're worn, but they're still legible. And she reads them. See her you can see her lips move as she like mouths the words, but doesn't actually utter them aloud. And she says, "I think I know how to." For whatever reason, though, I can just sense from this altar that barriers still present, but it is greatly diminished. The question is, where is the beast, and what side of the barrier is on? I think I could replenish its energy to give us more time. The question is, would we be locking it out, or would we be re-imprisoning it, or would we be like locking it in with us?
That is the question. It is very large, and locking it out of these woods is honestly a travesty because it could attack other folk. And the Grey Wardens, they're dangerous. They can handle themselves, so I don't feel bad about locking it in here. It's more or less making sure that eventually this barrier gets, I guess, maneuvered. I don't know how this sort of magic works. I'm not technical. Not like you, Moon.
And she says, "Well, I can re-energize the wards. Can't really move where it's warding. I would need. I mean, we would need to involve the Magus to do that. I think if anything, if we wanted to do that, we'd need to, and I can tell by reading the ley lines where that would be. I think we need to find the monster, and I think we need to find the beast and lure it where it should be."
Mhm.
The Rangers seemed to be under the impression that the threat goes away at sunrise. Is there a chance that perhaps the monster is drawn back here at that time? Could we just wait for it?
It's hard to say.
It depends on the Rangers. They only have partial information. It's less of it. The beast comes back here at sunrise, but more or less it just leaves.
Maybe it just beds, or maybe it just beds down for the day, wherever it happens to be. I am not a hunter in any stretch of the imagination. If it were up to me, I would suggest we take what we have learned, maybe not where this altar is. Maybe we should let the Rangers and the Magus know about this and perhaps use their expertise to try to hunt the beast down and at least lure it, or either drive it into or lure it into where it would be warded, and then we could restore the barriers.
Mhm. Yes, I just don't trust the Grey Wardens to not try to kill this creature. I rather that they don't do that, because it is not normal.
We certainly don't need to help any. Certainly don't need to haste the disappearance of magical things.
Mhm.
Agreed. I have no desire to slay it. I just wish to keep it where it needs to, keep it where it should be.
Mhm.
Is that scene?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's my turn, and I think this is pretty naturally going into I think it's pretty naturally going to go into the hunting grounds, story location, with the
Oh, I definitely thought I definitely thought you were going to say it very obviously goes to the disturbing ritual, which is again speaking to how great the game is, right? Like that's awesome.
I mean, maybe if we want to keep going there, this is the hunting grounds, the quarry we track. Maybe we need to do the disturbing ritual to like put the wards back up. But first, we need to find the monster.
Mhm.
So I think,
Very fair.
so I think the next scene is, I think there's like a brief montage scene of, us back in the us back in the hall, like letting the Rangers and the Magus know, what we found and what we think. And then I think this might actually have to be at night, because that's when the creature is on the move and on the prowl. That's
Mhm.
when we need to be able to do it. So I think the next scene is, we and several of the Rangers are, I think we'd be on foot to try to actually track this thing. And I think the leader of the Rangers, who I described earlier, is, she's taking the lead and, is doing like hand signals and whistles to like signal the other Rangers. And I think they tell us what this creature is, and what they are, hunting, and what they were, what they were, what was warded. And yeah, this is a fantasy game. It's a dragon.
Oh. Mhm.
It's not a big dragon. It's a dragon nevertheless. That's also why killing a dragon. So I'm going to say slaying a dragon is considered, well, one, extraordinarily difficult, and two, is a really, really bad omen. So that's why they haven't. That's why they haven't tried to kill it. That's why they've just been kind of hiding from it.
Mhm.
And at least what they describe, it sounds like it's a great lizard. It's got wings, and some stories say it can breathe fire. Some say no, that's just an old wives' tale. But it's a great winged lizard. That is powerful and is dangerous, and normally it's like kept to an area that's big enough for it to patrol and do what it needs to do without causing undue havoc on the other denizens of the forest, animal and human alike. So I think we see a montage scene of less like us and the Rangers like stalking through the forest, and like looking for, like some of them seeing prints and seeing signs of this creature, breaking branches as it goes through the woods, which leads us to think that this thing is big. It's at least a buffalo size, if not elephant sized. And because this is a peril, I need to roll a d6. I get a 6. And the prompt is Heart of the Forest. Oh, and I'm just going to take a pause for game mechanic check. That is a change prompt. We go to this. So the leaf symbol indicates a change. Before you end your turn, change or remove something from your note card. This could be your name, your title, or a trait. Described why your character thinks this is true. Interesting. Okay. Sheet real quick. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to narrate. So we're able. So our party is our hunting party. We are able to track this beast down, and sure enough, we have tracked it to the heart of the. We've tracked it into like the deepest, densest, and most enchanted part of this part of the woods. And again, it's night. I think it's. I'm going to say for the sake of I'm going to say for the sake of this being cinematic, it's night, but it's the night of a full moon and it's a clear sky, so we can actually see okay at night tonight. Which means we're able to see this. Which means we're able to see this as it attempted to circle around. It could tell we were tracking it, and it circled around behind us and started stalking us. And I think it attacks. I think it attacks our party. Chaotic. What does this creature actually look like now that now for the first time we're actually getting a good look?
I think the lizard and the wings part, that's not the full story of it. It has multiple wings, at like odd angles, at like sort of like winged arms, and just a very strange looking creature. I don't think it does have scales, and I think it just doesn't have a mouth, so it's just like this gaping maw with lots of teeth. It's a terrifying looking creature. And it's not very happy that it's being hunted because it is a hunter. So it's just trying to get us to disperse. Thankfully, it does not pre-fire. At least that's our accurate.
And Casey, I'm going to ask, in this scene, what does this creature do to like, or how does this creature cause us to like, how does what does this creature do that causes our group to like partially scatter? You know, yeah, so that we're suddenly not all together.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm just stuck on it like smashing into trees and like knocking trees over and down, and like that's what's separating us, and like it spreads us out off of like the path, the game trail, the trail of the dragon, like it manages to like get us all completely separated and off like out into the deep forest, or like not necessarily like super far away from where we need to be, but just sort of out of anywhere that seems immediately familiar.
Okay, cool. And yeah, after this, so after this creature has done this, and so like chased several of us off, Moon finds herself alone, and realizes that none of her friends, and none of her friends, none of her companions, and none of the rangers are near her. And she doesn't know these forests. She's not really much of she's not really much of a forest person anyway. And it's at night, and these woods are scary. And she hears, she hears a loud snap of a branch behind her, and hears just an unnerving, unnatural sound behind her. And she turns around quickly and sees that this beast is crouched down, about to pounce on her. And then she remembers the words of some magic that the Magus had taught her, and she casts she works some magic, and she animates like several of the plants that surround this thing, and like vines and tendrils and branches of the tree and branches like lash out at the creature and wrap themselves around the creature. And it's very strong, but as Moon continues to work this magic, she's able to like hold it in place. And I think at that point, the rest of you, like enough of the rest of you, like hear this commotion and hear the sound of magic working, that the rest of you, the group, then reconverges and sees that that Moon is like working this magic to like hold this beast down, and it's trying not to kill it, but is also not really trying too hard not to hurt it, because this thing is clearly about to try to eat her. And I think we're going to end that scene there, with us in the woods with the beast kind of captured, but Moon like throwing what magic she can at it. Moon still working this magic on this creature, and as she's doing this, you can just see like a steel in her eyes that we haven't seen until now. And the change I am going to make to her character sheet is I am going to remove the descriptor kind. Ooh, there's a strike through tag. Let me use that. I think that's the scene.
Mm-hmm. I think it's your turn, Casey.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I just like build right off the end of that scene?
Absolutely, go for it.
Cool, sweet. So we're gonna go to a circle of ancients, a disturbing ritual. So as Moon got it trapped, I think, or what I was imagining when I saw was the Magus and the lead ranger, sort of like, I mean, it's not necessarily a circle, I guess it's a triangle, like link their magic with Moon around this creature and start working magic together. And it's like they're trying to put the ward back, right? Trying to trap it. And I think what we see is the symbols that the Magus lost in bringing the forest back on the bridge. We see those same symbols like glow at the head ranger's temples during this, and at the end of the ritual they fade. The wards hold, but then that ashen rain starts in the forest. And so they've managed to contain the beast, but at what cost?
it.
And that was all I wanted to do.
Some.
Yeah. I'm ready to move on to the Spirit River.
Okay. I think the implication for the Spirit River, looking at the prompts, is maybe I think the implication is we're on a boat, but that's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
We could be just walking along. We could be walking along the banks of the river. That's entirely up to you.
Yeah. I definitely think like we shortly after the rain starts, we have to leave because this land can't handle trying to heal itself and trying to contain its beast. We need to keep moving. And there's nothing really can do to help it any further. And I think the Grey Wardens point out that the river is probably the way to get to Istallia, which leads to the ocean, and we could go from there. And I think it's a rather quiet walk, as we've been through a lot these past couple days. And then the Spirit River, it's a slow, quiet, whooshing noise at first, but then it builds into like a decent sort of like waterway. There is some locals, people who live in the area, who make their living by fishing, heading to a local town to sell excess and whatnot. And we have like a little bit of a chat. And I think this is like the most, I think, disappointing point in our journey because we have to leave our horses behind. So, and like, I think as the Magus releases the unicorn from service, the beast turns into just a regular horse. And I think that's where we're going to end that scene.
It's back to me. To this fishing. Promise you won't keep. So I think we are traveling along the river. I think we had to leave I think we had to leave the horses because we're getting on a boat and we're taking the boat down the river. Partially because we had to let our horses go. We couldn't take. I mean, our horse packs were laid down with many supplies, so we weren't able to take as much as we wanted. So, so I think we are. So I imagine that Moon and anyone else, Moon. Oh, and Caspian, who has been with us this whole time. I think Moon and Caspian are sitting on the. We're sitting at the stern of this boat, and I imagine I imagine it's like a flat bottom river boat that's got a sail. Probably also has. I'm thinking that Spirit River is too deep to pole, so it's good. So it's a flat bottom like river sailboat It probably also has some oars, and like crew could like maybe 3 sets of oars that crew could oar the ship if need be. It's more of a boat than a ship, really. But Moon and Caspian are sitting at the aft of this ship, and we've got fishing poles, and we're we are we're trying to catch some fish for supplies, replenish our supplies, get something to eat for dinner. And I think the riverboat captain like knows there's something going on and can tell that we are the party. I mean, the people know who the Magus is. There aren't older women who walk around in blue and silver robes stitched with magical silver sigils and have like sigils tattooed all over their face. And Moon also has some tattoos tattooed on her face. She's pretty obviously another kind of magic using person. And I think the captain of the boat comes over to Moon and says, we all know there's something that's been going on. Back in the woods where we picked you up, there was ash falling from the sky, and harvests are lower than they used to be, and there's just something not right of the world. It's like some of the colors going off. So what are you doing about it? You're the apprentice of the Magus. What are you doing about it? And she looks up and she says, well, that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. We're on this journey to try to figure out what's happening and to fix it, to make the world right again. And he says, that's just it. My boat here. We used to use we're not traveling near as fast as we used to. I had an ancient waystone that I would use to help me navigate. I could use it to call on the winds and to call on the currents. It hasn't been working right. Is that something you can fix? Is that something you'll definitely fix once you do whatever your scheme is? And Moon looks him right in the eye and says, of course, once we're done with our journey, we will absolutely be back. We'll absolutely be back and make sure that stone of yours is working just like it used to. To which he smiles, slaps her on the back, says, good, I knew I could trust you people. And he goes back to the stern of the ship. And she just sighs deeply, like looks down into the water. And then Caspian looks at her with a raised eyebrow, and she meets his gaze, and she just shakes her head. And I think that's the scene.
Is it me again?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Sweet. I am going to go to tall grass, what hides from view. And I think Piccolo has noticed, maybe even all the way back to Mistwood, that sometimes he sees foxes. And I think along the riverbank, in the tall grass, he's like seen again, maybe what's hiding in the grass there is like a couple foxes, but can't be entirely sure. And like at some point they stop following and like they're not going to go any farther. And I think I might address this to Azure if that's okay with you, Chaotic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think this actually could pull into what scene I have in mind next, because this is kind of a regret from Azure.
Okay, cool.
So like, I think just as a general nature, I think like the reason like the foxes stopped following us is because we are at a river fork, and like we sort of take down like one of the paths, and like it's cutting them off from like any further land travel, so they can't just swim across because the water's just too deep and the river is just too wide, so they're kind of stuck there. And Zara just seems to be trying to ignore something. But I think you just sort of just come over and just start trying to make conversation, probably asking questions. So let's role play that out.
Sure. Yeah. Um, hmm. Are there we've all had to leave parts of our home behind. It looks like you're the fox traveling the farthest.
Yes, I'm traveling farthest. I suppose this is probably the farthest I've ever been away from home.
Hmm.
Probably the same for you, I imagine.
This is way farther than I've ever been before. I felt if we're similar in any ways, I felt this way when we were in Mistwood. Far from home, only memories for now. They followed us this far though. That's hopeful.
Yes, maybe. I didn't get to talk to them at all. I'm afraid that I won't be able to get to talk to them ever again.
Was that a decision you made, or was that decision made for you? The implication there being that, like, if Magic's dying, maybe there was something that was keeping you from communicating with them because of that.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, because I don't know. It could have been that there was no chance, but I didn't take it. And I'm not sure even still I want to know.
I'd like to think, given the choice again, or given the choice in the future, we'll choose the right one.
Maybe. But I'm not sure. After all, I am the legendary Fox of Mistwood. I make choices that get me into trouble, but I am just quick-witted and lucky enough to get myself out again. I will be stuck with this world to the end of its days. For better or worse.
For better or worse.
And I think Azure gives like a smile, but it's like a little bit more dimmed.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
I like
feels
that.
that feels like scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's back to me. I think I am interested in moving Magus. I'm also looking at the time. It's just about on the hour. So, why don't we take a yeah, why don't we take another break and let's reconvene at 5 minutes past the hour. So take like it'll be like a 6 minute break.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good.
And we're back. So, so I think it's up to me. I think I'm going to move to the next location, but I want to check with the other players first because we've got a choice as to which direction we want to go to. So let me share the screen here so our viewers can like all like, 3 of them probably, can see what we're looking at. So we're here on the Spirit River.
Wrong screen.
Wrong screen. Oh, that it was the wrong screen. Stop share. Share screen. Share. Here we are. Is that better? Okay. So here we are on the Spirit River. So we are. So we have a chance. We have a choice. We can either take the river to the mouth of the deep, which is basically to a cavern that leads to like basically an underground section. And if we wanted to go that way, if we were playing in person, we would then like literally flip the map upside down, and there's like a second map on the back. That's like more like underground dungeony, Mines of Moria kind of directions. Or we could take this fork to Istallia, and have some adventures here in this large city. From there, the next prompt is a ship, which we would then sail across the sea. And the way that works is we'd have like a scene on the ship, and then there's a pack of cards that are island cards. And then we would go to like, 2 or possibly 3 islands, depending on how much time we have. And those islands also have, cards. And the way that works is if we go to the sea, we would you'd draw 2 cards and look at them. And then you'd decide which one you thought would be more interesting, and you'd place that one on the map, and we'd just continue to play normally with that particular card. People have a preference whether they want to go oversea or underground. I have a slight preference to go oversea, but I could certainly be swayed.
I mean, that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, I would like the sea.
Okay.
The sea.
Okay then. Well, that informs my decision. Let me So I am going to move the Magus to Istallia, where we will have the hospitality of the Gilded One. Okay. So when we get to the fork in the river, we take the fork that we take the fork to the left, which continues to flow mostly which continues to flow mostly to the east. And eventually we see ahead of us so as we continue down the river, the forests open up to more cultivated fields, and we sail past more civilized areas. We stop a couple of times to take on supplies, but we continue going down until we see a great city rise. We see a great city rise ahead of us. Change my background picture. Oh, I thought I had that loaded already. Or not. I thought I had a fantasy city with a big building with a giant gold dome. Oh well, okay, not important.
Here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we sail into like a big area of docks, and the ship puts in, and the Magus um, pays our boat captain for the for our passage, and we disembark. And this is the biggest city. I mean, now Caspian's from here, so Caspian actually leads us around. Although the Magus also seems to know her way around this city. And as we are as we're moving through the city, some people seem to take notice of us. And we aren't in the city for more than an hour or two while we're like walking around, trying to get our bearings, figuring out where to go next. When there seems to be like rumors that have been going through the city that the Magus has arrived in Istallia, and almost an impromptu and like we are eventually noticed, and there's a squad of a squad of knights on horseback approach, and you know including a gilded coach that's being drawn by 4 white steeds. And the knights approach, and one says, you are calls out, are you the Magus? Are you the Magus and her party? And the Magus looks partly annoyed and partly embarrassed by this, but says yes. And the knight gestures to this carriage and says, "The Gilded One has heard of your arrival. It has been foreseen, and your presence is requested at the palace. Please, please come aboard." And I think, and the Magus just kind of like shakes her head, but like catches everyone's eye, and we all climb aboard this just gilded. We climb aboard this like beautiful, exquisite carriage. It's the interior. The seats are of like red leather, and there's like curtains, and there's like a decanter of water and a decanter of wine. And we are basically now in a parade that winds through several of the streets, eventually up a long avenue that leads up to the palace. And honestly, Caspian says, could have walked there in half the time, but no, the Gilded One always has to make everything into a spectacle. And the Magus nods her head and says, yes, they certainly do. Mm-hmm. And so the carriage, escorted by an honor guard, brings us, the drawbridge is lowered, and we ride across, and inside the outer keep, the carriage is brought around, and there's like there's like a red carpet and there's like a dais there, and a like standing at the dais is a figure who's dressed in like basically like gold, like a gold lame flowing robes, has a golden crown on their head, but we really can't tell, we can't see their features because they're also wearing a golden mask. And the footmen open up the carriage and set a little ladder down for us to walk down, and the figure on the dais says, Istallia, the Gilded City, welcomes our honored guests, the Magus and her retinue. Please, our hospitality awaits. And we are escorted into the palace. I think I think I'm going to end that scene there. Not sure who's next, honestly.
I do have an idea for a marketplace of magic, but this could go very, very extremely weird very fast.
I'm up with weird.
Okay. I think, honestly, like, with like us going to the palace in this carriage and like just the sort of the comments of like, oh, that we could have walked here in half the time. I think just Azure just like sort of nods at that, sees the doors to the carriage still kind of like unlocked on one side, and I literally just hop out of the carriage and just leave. I'm like, have fun at the castle. It's not my place, so see you later, maybe on the boat. I'll just take a tour around town. Don't worry about me. Bye. As I get lost in the crowd. And I think
nobody tries to stop you.
And I think I'm just like going through town, walking the streets, just seeing like all these sights and sounds, seeing like these people, and I'm like, oh, this is just amazing. Like, and I think for the most part, the thing that astonishes me is that there's not a lot of crime here. Like in a town this big, there should have been more crime, but it's a rather peaceful place. And I think I realize why it is, because, well, magic is very strong about deals and bargains. You don't break those. Even with magic dying, as long as magic is alive in some form, you just don't break doors. And I think I come across a certain deal that's got made and trying to get back retracted, because like there is just this young woman who is crying out for her beloved, and like just yelling at this witch to give him back, and it's a rather sad scene. And it's like, well, my dear, you should have fell in love with just a normal person, not use magic to get your way. You know how these things work. And frankly, it's in the contract that it can be resolved with true love's kiss. He doesn't truly love you, or the worst option is that you don't truly love him. Come back another day, maybe make a bit of bargain. Hopefully you learn their lesson next time. And it's just sad, Azure, because like he considers that true love does exist in the world, but it takes time to build. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't And certainly, like with deals like these, it doesn't happen over with like a week or whatever time frame that this witch gave this young couple. And he just goes, "Well, how about this? Maybe make a new deal with me, and I can do more of a proper trade rather than sort of a weird, wishful, so many days, time limits, just all sorts of things that are up in the air. How about an actual trade? Something I can give up. Or you see, I'm Azure, the legendary fox of Mistwood, and I can probably get my hands on pretty much anything you could possibly want." And the witch considers this. What do you consider more important to yourself? Your name or your reputation? Well, I consider my reputation more important to me than my name. After all, being the legendary fox of Mistwood, that's all I ever really want to be. And she goes, "Really now? Are you sure about that?" And he goes, "Absolutely. Now what shall you ask of me?" She responds in turn, "I shall have your name. In exchange, I shall undo whatever. What was it? The contract of meeting your true love, or what? I don't know. Whatever this deal this young lady made, I will get back her beloved." And he goes, "Good." And they write out a contract, and Azure signs his name on the paper, and she just wipes her hand across the page, and Azure becomes a fox of Mistwood. I don't think it's in blood. I think it's in ink, because like it's magical ink. So because like she's able to draw the ink from the page for Azure, fox of Mistwood, into a fox of Mistwood. And that's very important, because a fox of Mistwood is very different from Azure, fox of Mistwood. Azure has now become a literal fox. So, and I think that's where we're going to end the scene, with Azure very bewildered that he has become stuck as a fox. We're not sure what quite that means yet, but we'll find out soon.
That's awesome.
Super awesome, yeah, for sure.
Casey, I think it is your turn.
Yeah. Yeah. So once we're in the hall, I think Piccolo kind of has a similar experience to Fox, and is uncomfortable with like the displays of wealth and the grandeur of the hall. So they're gonna take off. He's gonna take off and go to Badwater, and
Can I
like the
ask
rough
what?
side of town.
I was going to ask, what is Badwater?
I think it's the poor section of town. And he goes down there to drink, and overhears some of these folks, in their cups, talking about magic and the rumors they've heard. And it's things, like, well, they say magic's dying, but the flowers always bloom at the palace, and like, I guess the implication being that the upper crust, the rich, the privileged, seem to be still benefiting from the magic. So they have the poor folks. If magic ever helped them, it certainly isn't helping them anymore. And so maybe they don't necessarily even believe in the magic, or the fact that or I guess they believe in the magic, but doesn't seem like it's dying in some places as much as others. is the general vibe I wanted to throw out there, and that's the only idea I had with that.
Cool. So I think I think both Moon and Caspian are like sticking with the Magus for the for the festivities that the Gilded One has called. And I guess there's there's like there's an impromptu feast, and there's like there's like there's like minstrels play a tune, and there's a small troupe of players that put on like a mini like a little mini play, and it's and the opulence of the hall of the palace of the Gilden One is astounding. There's just like everything is like luxurious and rich. The utensils are made of silver. There's like the walls are like the wallpaper has gilding. There's like lush tapestries, and the Gilded One themselves never takes their mask off throughout all of these festivities, and we never actually see the Gilded One like eat or drink anything either. And after the festivities are starting to wind down, the Gilded One comes over and like looks at the Magus and looks at Moon and says, "Hey, I wish to speak with you. I very much wish to speak with the two of you in private. Would you join me in would you join me in a smaller would you join me in my more more private entertaining hall?" And the Magus like looks at the Gilded One and said, "Well, I kind of knew this was coming. Come, Moon, let us see what the Gilded One wishes of us." And so we see a scene, and it's again it's a small it's like a small formal parlor, but again the opulence is everywhere. There's like alabaster statues, and like tea is poured out of this like porcelain teapot that's just exquisitely painted. And the Gilded One says, "I need to know what is going on with magic. Magic is clearly failing." And we hear the sound of a sigh from behind the mask, and the Gilded One says, "We're using what we can, what we have stored, and what we have tapped into, but I need you I need you to fix the Gilded Heart of Istallia, because it is not doing what it needs to do. Our city is dying, and our city is dying, and I am not powerful enough to fix it. Only you are." And at that, the Gilded One like snaps their fingers, and into the doors open, and in walks like two pages that are carrying inside a like there's like a gold heart on a pedestal, and it's not a stylized heart. It looks like it's a golden model of an actual human heart, and it is beating. And it's under this like it's under like a bell jar, and it's on this like little pedestal under this bell jar, and it's beating, but the beat is irregular, and it looks like every time it beats, just a little tiny bit of gold flakes off, and at the bottom of the bottom, like underneath this bell jar, there is just a fine amount of gold, like gold leaf flake. And the Gilded One says, gestures to it and says, I have asked the headmaster of Starfall Academy, the most prestigious place of magical learning outside of Ravenhall itself, and they said that they needed the power of the Magus to fix this. Will you assist? And at that, the Magus again looks at Moon and says, "What do you think, Apprentice? Do we pour what remains of our power into this, or shall we decline this request and continue our journey?" And Moon looks at the impassive, masked face of the Gilded One, and back at the Magus, and at this like wondrous artifact, and says, "I think that we should do what we can to help." And the Magus nods, and the Gilded One nods, and the Magus says, "Very well. We will see you at very well. We will assist." I think the next scene is in a well, for lack of a better word, it looks like a wizard's magical laboratory. And there are several other wizards in the room, and many of them also have like sigils on their faces, but not nearly as elaborate as the ones that the Magus had. And again, there is another. I think maybe there's a total of 7. The Magus, Moon, and three other like magical wizards of some sort, and they conduct a magical ritual. And this time, the Magus leads it, and everyone like puts up their hands, and this time like crimson beams of magical energy radiate out. And they've taken the bell jar off of this magical heart that's on this like stone pedestal that's covered with sigils, and at the culmination of this ritual, like magical energy comes from their hands into the heart, and that gold powder that was on the bottom like floats back up and reincorporates it, and the beating of this magical golden heart returns to be like regular and strong. And just after that happens, just like the color saturation level throughout the whole city just gets turned up a notch or two, and everything just becomes brighter and a little more colorful. But again, at the conclusion of this ritual, several more of the magical sigils that were on the Magus's face fade, as do a few from Moon's face. I think that's the scene. So, looking at the time, we've got like not quite half an hour left for our scheduled session. Eli should be able to join us next week. Eli's character is from Istallia, so maybe it would be a good time to end it here. If that's okay with you.
I was going to mention that eventually too. Yeah. I think it'd be awesome to see some scenes with them next week.
Yeah, let's maybe have at least one scene with let's have some scenes with Caspian in Istallia. Maybe we can find a little more about what being a crab singer means.
Yeah.
And then we'll do our sea voyage. Again, depending on time, I think we'll probably next week we'll probably have time for like, maybe 2, possibly 3 islands. And then when we get to Umbra, there's 2 prompts in Umbra. There's Crow Hall, which when we get there, we'll see is kind of an inverse of Ravenhall. And then there's the last story prompt, which is the Glow, which is the source of magic. And we'll see how this story concludes. So, I'd like if you'd like, I'd like to do a little, I'd like to do a Stars and Wishes debrief, but as I mentioned last session, I prefer to do that off camera because, that's for us. It's not necessarily for our viewers. So, if anyone is actually watching this video, thank you for watching. This has been Fall of Magic with Open Hearth Gaming. My name is Mike, and we've been playing with
Chaotic.
Casey.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and hopefully you can tune in to the next video when we actually play this out next week. Thanks.